Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar video. This is going to be my Avatar fan commentary track for Avatar The Last Airbender Book 2, Episode 2, The Cave of Two Lovers. So this was chosen by some of my subscribers in my previous video, and again, if you have episodes of Avatar or Korra you would like me to do a commentary track for, let me know in the comment section below. I do really just want to do the episodes that you guys want to see rather than choosing them all myself or just going through all of the episodes. So I want to know which ones you guys specifically want. But yeah, getting into this one, again, this is the time where you should have your copy of the episode ready to go, whether that be DVD, Blu-ray, or whatever online stream you have, and have it ready to go, starting with the intro of the episode so we can be synced up. I'm going to stop talking as part of this introduction to the video. There'll be about a 10-second pause, and then when I start speaking again, that's when I will have pressed play, it's when you should press play, and we should be synced up within a second or two after that point. So, I'm going to stop speaking now, press play when I start speaking again. Okay, so here we are with 202, The Cave of Two Lovers, an early Book 2 episode of Avatar. And this is one of those episodes where, like, I don't really have any issues with this episode really at all. I think it's very, very fun, has some great lore to it with the Oma and Shu stuff, the introduction of the Badger Moles. It's really funny with Chong and the Nomads, their interactions with Sokka. It's one of the best Katang episodes, so it's got the nice romance in it for Katara and Aang. About the only thing you'd say is just that it's probably not the most, like, eventful episode. I think there just are a good amount of episodes that are just better, sort of more in general happens with them. But these are the type of episodes that when you're not doing something that's, like, crazy important to the plot, you kind of want to see. You want to see that, like, okay, we're just traveling through an area, but we have this going on with the characters. We have this lore, stuff about the world to introduce to you. And we get a lot of that here. So yeah, we start off with, this idea of like, yeah, we're post book 1. Katara is still training Aang in waterbending because of course she sort of surpassed him in waterbending because she was more devoted to the training. So she's his master here. But they're relatively close. Like, that's the idea. Aang just has to sort of finish the last couple of like lessons off to perfectly adapt waterbending into his style. And I suppose that's the other thing, like, they never really address it too much with, Aang, of just like, him having to deal with the idea that he has to fight with multiple elements, and like, when does he choose one, or when does he do another. But you can see here, he's basically a master. They're both masters at this point. There's no real question or debate about that. And I like the fun waterbending there, Aang's octopus form. You almost wish we'd seen more of that over the course of the series, of just these fun waterbending styles that he's able to do with like other elements and stuff like that. He has the fun airbending stuff, there's fun waterbending. It'd be cool to see more of that, but nice use of it here. But here's the introduction of Chong and the Nomads, who are definitely like some of the best minor characters we've had, in that they're not fighters or anything like that. They're just these kind of goofy nomads who, are so laid back that they're barely thinking, but they work perfectly for this episode. The fact that they are nomads, they have been around the place, they know the legends of this area specifically, and mainly because they perfectly get on Sokka's nerve. He just really doesn't mesh well with them, but it makes for a great dynamic. You almost forget there's this like Zuko and Iroh section of the episode here, but this is the song episode, so we're going to go to song by the end of this section, with the fun setup here at the start just being like, oh, Iroh's always on the lookout for places to make better tea, but he's not entirely sure about it. It's either this thing that will poison me or this thing that will make delicious tea. He's always going to take the risk. So here's one of the more funny aspects of Iroh's character. He's always willing to take a risk for tea. His one weakness, I suppose, in a way. But it's obviously to set up the need to go to someone to heal them, which will be Song and her mother. So I like that Aang immediately gets on well with them because they're both nomads. They both traveled the world fairly well. They're more familiar with the world as it is now. Giant Nightcrawler, that'd be cool to see. Never-ending Rainbow, that probably isn't actually a thing, but still fun. And then just the visuals here are nice, you know, seeing Katara get her hair braided. Appa's getting his hair braided as well. Momo's, I think, asleep on top of Appa. Destination Fever. And that is a sort of lesson of this episode, of just like, you know, it's not just about getting to the other side of the mountain. The journey through there is the fun, which is his interactions with the nomads, and it's Katara and Aang's like solo adventure together and what they discover along the way. The episode is an example of its own lesson. Really good. Yep. Secret tunnel through the mountains. A real legend. There's some great lines of dialogue in this. And this song is brilliant because the song is very accurate to the actual writings in the tune that we'll get to later on. But he specifically forgets the second verse that has the more detailed, kind of important part of the story. So he doesn't spoil it here early on. And it makes sense with his personality why he wouldn't really remember it. And he just skips to, of course, the main bit. Secret tunnel. So he just remembers that it's something about trusting in love, and then secret tunnel. And then he remembers the very last line. But never remembers the important bits about, you know, them learning from the Badger Moles, it being the origin of earthbending in a way, and so on. And yep, they want to avoid going underground because Appa doesn't like that, but the opposite is catapults of flaming death here. And obviously they've sort of been through this before. They know it's not a great idea because they experienced something very similar with the blockade run in episode 8 of book 1. So they really don't want to go through this again because Appa got like singed during that. So it would be terrible for that to happen again. More setup on this side of the story. He made the tea. It was poison. He has a really bad rash. They can't go anywhere unless they solve it. But he's found another one. It's either the cure for what he has, or it will cause him to go blind. And given what he did earlier on, he's very likely to just try and go ahead with that. So just this weird reveal that Iroh is this risk taker ultimately. That's kind of fun dynamic. And yeah, this is their book 2 situation. They're on the run from the Fire Nation and the Earth Kingdom. Azula is now specifically after them, or do they deal with the nation that wants to get them? And they'll always prefer the Earth Kingdom over that. And this is why Sokka doesn't like these guys, of like, tell me the details right now, but he just gradually, casually inserts everything of like, it wasn't important to reveal that it was a labyrinth, that there was a curse, any of this stuff. And Sokka's just like, what are we getting ourselves into here? He likes to plan ahead with the information, and he's just been told it here as they're about to enter. Yeah, only those that trust in love can make it through. Otherwise you'll be trapped in them. And that's the last line of the song. Just nice kind of musical humor here. But they have to go through it, otherwise they'll have to deal with the Fire Nation. And yeah, this Aang's so confident. I love him being so confident because he knows he loves Katara. And even though it kind of seems like a little bit one-sided right now, apart from I think 1 or 2 little moments in book 1, he's confident that his own love will get them through. But interestingly, this is one of the key episodes in terms of, I suppose, Katara showing that she cares about Aang in that way, in that she's the one to sort of initiate the idea of the kiss. And even the Fire Nation know about the curse through the song specifically. They don't know about the legend, they just know about the song, which is really funny. And it's a clever move by this, Fire Nation commander guy here, of just like, we're not going in there if that legend is true. We'll just lock them in there and let the curse deal with them. I love the animation there on Appa just trying to crawl up the walls to get out. Really bad situation for him. This is a fun joke as well. Lily with a pretty idiotic move there. She just did not get that idea of like you use them all at once versus using them one after the other. Similarly, Sokka is going to do some mapping here, which is basically to set up the idea of like, that's not going to work because the tunnels move. Who hasn't thought of doing a map before? And here is Song. And yeah, he's got worse since they've arrived. I love how bad they are at coming up with like fake names of just like Lee, and he makes a bad name for Iroh, Mushi, and Iroh gets him back by like, he's actually Junior. Yeah, and this is Zuko just constantly wanting to sort of just move on, not get involved in anyone, but Iroh has this great personality and is perfectly willing to accept any offer of generosity, and through them staying around and meeting these people, they see, especially Zuko mainly gets to see the truth about the Fire Nation, of like what they do in conquering, that they are the villain in this war, and it takes Zuko a while to realize that, but when he does, it sets up his final turn back to the side of good in siding with Aang. The tunnels are changing. And this is Zuko getting to see like basically what the gang has already seen. This is similar to like what happened to Haru and his father. It's just a kind of slightly different version of it. But it's Zuko getting to directly see, this is what the Fire Nation do. And Zuko knows that, in a way, like, the Fire Nation have hurt him as well. And sort of ends up relating a little bit to the scene between Katara and Zuko in, like, the finale of Book 2, where they again talk about the idea that the Fire Nation has taken something from both of them. And it's well written on that side of the episode, with the idea that Zuko tells the truth in his answers to Song, with the idea that she doesn't know that he's talking about them from like a Fire Nation perspective. She just thinks it's like, oh, he's just an Earth Kingdom guy who's also been scarred. And there's a nice just dynamic there of like, we as the audience read much more into it than she does, and I think that works very nicely. But yeah, here we go. Wolf Bats, really cool, because obviously the main team that opposes the Fire Ferrets in Korra is the White Falls Wolf Bats. There's the animals that they're named after. We obviously got to see them wear the costumes, but there's the actual animal. Really cool thing here. Aang blasts everyone away to save them, but he has to stop to do that, so he can't follow them, which leads to him saving Katara like this. It's a nice way to set up the group, kind of well constructed. And it sets up the worst team possible for Sokka, but the best team possible for romance. Sokka and all of the guys he doesn't want to be with, and that's why he's so desperate to dig his way out. Yeah. Dig more. Or give up. And then, yeah. Katara and Aang together with Appa makes perfect sense. Because, Appa might have caused a little bit of a problem if, like, he was there when the Badger Moles were first introduced, so it fits both sides of the stories. And they need Appa to break down the tomb. And this is nice, like, not much dialogue, but just the comparison there of, like, Zuko scarred, burned, Song burned, both by the Fire Nation, and Zuko kind of beginning to see that realization of like, that's what the Fire Nation do. They burn people, they burn the land to take it over. That again, why was Zuko banished? What did he say? And the difference in approach. Don't let the cave-in get you down. So many memorable songs, release the soundtrack, please. I'd love to see it. even though it's so late at this point, it needs to happen. But yeah, they can't push it down, but Appa, motivated to make anything happen, he's going to break that thing down. I love the foot scratch before he charges, it's really good. But yeah, here is the tomb of Oma and Shu, and the lore that we're about to get here. The main thing I'll say about this is just this. A lot of people cite this episode, what we learn in this episode, as being like, here's the reason why Beginnings breaks continuity, because it directly contradicts what we learn here. My response to that is basically that this is a legend written on the wall of this tomb. It is not Oma and Shu writing this on their own tomb, it was someone else. It is not entirely accurate in the same way that not everyone knows about the early origin of the world, like what actually happened with the Line Turtles in the past and so on. And that's basically the point that I'd make, and that Korra learning the story through one of her past lives' memory directly, her getting to see that, is a much more accurate version of the story. But this is really well done. I love the different art style that they show for this. And it's basic, you know, like they don't go too much into depth on the character of Oma or Shu, just that, you know, it's a legend. It's a general story that there's some learning from. You get the basic details, and it fits as the origin of Omashu. Two different places united in the sort of tragedy of what happened here. The other thing is the setting of this. This clearly has to be set post era of Raava, so it has to be set in sort of like it has to be set post era of the Line Turtles. So this only makes sense to have happened when the spirits are put back into the spirit world and humans are actually able to sort of be in their own world. Meaning that, of course, by definition, there has to have been earthbenders before Oma and Shu. The point here is that Oma and Shu are the first earthbenders to learn from the Badger Moles the true way to earthbend properly, as if it's an extension of yourself, in the same way that Wan is the first firebender to learn the true way of firebending from the dragons. That's the correct interpretation here. And you can tell, like, it's not entirely all thought out here. We're still early on. This is like the second episode of the second book. There's more than half of the story still to go. They don't have everything fully planned out. And then they contradict it later on, because like Toph's backstory clarifies that she doesn't learn her bending from the Badger Moles. She learns the correct way to bend, because we know Toph has been taking lessons from Master Yu for a long time. To no progress, she made all of her progress with the Badger Moles. Similarly, the firebending masters, the dragons don't energetically do anything to Zuko and Aang. They learn a philosophy from them, an approach. And here we go. Katara suggests they kiss. I love the animation of this kind of up-close face stuff, because we're dealing with kind of emotions, so it's important to get the expressions across perfectly. And Aang is all for the idea, but they're like, oh, this is kind of awkward, maybe we shouldn't quite do it. And Aang kind of goes along with Katara and is like, no, let's not do this. And says the wrong thing, of course. Even though he actually wants to, he says the wrong thing. Not smooth at all. Great line. It's a compliment, apparently. What is wrong with you, Aang? Don't worry, it works out. Like Roku says to him in like 306, it'll work out. You're the Avatar after all. I love every time we cut back to them, they're playing music in some way. That like the reason the Badger Moles are kind of following them, coming over to them, is because of the music. And here's the goodbye. Iroh had a nice time. Zuko just goes to walk off. Is forced to say thank you. But as we see here, Song says one last thing. No hope. The Avatar's returned. I know. And it's like, oh, she thinks he has hope because of the Avatar as well, but for a different reason. Because he still believes if he gets Aang, he'll be welcomed back by his father. And it's just that constant thing of like the different interpretation from Zuko versus how Song thinks Zuko's interpreting it. And of course he steals the ostrich horse and it sort of confirms like, okay, they weren't great. And it's just the disappointment there from Song. In that, like, if he was actually someone from the Earth King, you got the sense maybe there could have been like a relationship, but like, no, it was never going to happen. So their light is beginning to run out. So they commit to the plan in the end. What else can we do other than, like, we're in the middle of nowhere, why not? The lights go out, they lean in, and look, they do kiss. Even though the episode doesn't directly confirm it, like they say it, it happened. You know it happened because of scenes later on in the episode, the kind of blushing and stuff like that, especially towards the end, I'll point it out. It's really clear that I don't think there's any question whatsoever. But there's the wolf bats again. Their faces are really terrifying. But they reveal they're running away from something. And here we go, the introduction of the badger moles, one of the coolest animals in all of Avatar. They're really cool, imposing, and perfectly fit as being that, elemental animal for Earth. And you see, they are earthbending. It's not just that they're strong. They just, kind of drag their hands across the earth in front of them, and stuff happens. They're truly, actually bending their element. It's just, again, they teach the style, the approach to best utilize a power that is given to them by lion turtles and is passed on over the generations, of course, through humans. And yeah, the reveal that, of course, they were being followed here by following the music. This is what saves them. I love how quickly Chong takes out the guitar and just gets going. That they're blind, so of course they like sound. And they're peaceful as well. I do like that. Handhold there. Yeah. Glow in the dark crystals. And like, here's one of the first things, like they hug, Katara goes off, and Aang is like, can we talk about what just happened? And he's just like, okay, we'll get back to it. That was good. We'll get back to it. And yep, they make their way out. Great animation on Appa here as he just flops over, happy to be out in the open. Open sky and on top of him. What an experience he's just been through. And then he's confronted by two badger moles. I wish they'd had Appa and the badger moles interact, just to see what some of those more different elemental animals were like interacting with each other. We let love lead the way, we let ferocious animals lead ours. And I like this, that they have Momo go over to Appa to show that they are friends. They have this conversation, they stick on it for a couple of seconds. It's nice that they still characterize the animals. Great setup on the forehead joke. Why is that the case? We saw him facepalm already. Chong says the most idiotic thing of the episode, but brilliant. And facepalm makes it even redder. Are you going to come with us? Nope. Bye. There's just great dialogue. It's really snappy. And then here's the lesson. Don't let the plans get in the way of the journey. He doesn't really learn that lesson. He's still sort of like that, but I suppose learns to appreciate it a little bit more. And here's the big thing. This is the confirmation they kissed. Aang glances over. Katara glances to the side. Blush. She's happy about that. I don't see how you can interpret that any other way. It'd be weird if it was just we nearly did it. Blush. No. And then you almost forget that this is at the end of the episode if you haven't watched it in a while. That like they're going to Amashu and yeah, shock, it's been taken over. The like second most important city in the Earth King that we just found out the sort of history about has been taken over. where's Boomy? What happened? How did this go on? It's a great setup from going from this sort of more, casual traveling episode that had some fun aspects to it but wasn't the most important, to all of a sudden, okay, here's the plot. We're doing something here. Like, this is big. Like, Ba Sing Se is like the only thing left now at this point. Like, where do we go from here? So, really strong episode. Like I said, the humor, the writing of like Chong and Sokka, but also the great setup for Katara and Aang's romance. It's really, really well done. It's just not the most important episode, but I like that it has that world building in there. Introduction of badger moles, we get to see like wolf bats as well, and while of course the legend of Oma and Shu tells us a good amount of information, of course we learn more in later episodes, and I've always been of the opinion that, look, we can make it all work together without it really needing to be overly contradictory. And so yes, I absolutely placed the information from beginnings ahead of this for obvious reasons that I explained here, and that is that humans get the raw ability of being able to manipulate elements from the lion turtles, and then through the generations that is passed down, and then humans learned the style associated with each element, the best way to utilize that element, so that they're not just chucking rocks around or throwing fire around, that they're actually using it as an extension of themselves. They get that from the moon for waterbending, and then from dragons for firebending, badger moles for earthbending, sky bison for airbending. That's how it works, because otherwise you get this weird situation where you're asking the question of like, wait, if the animals are the ones who are directly giving the powers to humans, why can't Appa just give people airbending? Why is it a big deal that Aang is the last airbender? Like, yes, the loss of his people is a big one, but that the idea of that the culture going extinct shouldn't really be as big of an issue, because other people can be made airbenders easily because we have Appa still. So that's another point that I think people almost forget about, like the implications if that is the case, of like, why didn't someone become an earthbender from interacting with the badger moles? It's because while these animals do have powers, they have the ability to manipulate the element that they're associated with, they do not have the ability to transfer that power or give that power, activate that power within humans. Lion turtles do. And to me that all works perfectly well together with what we know about like chi paths and stuff like that, how that all works. The concept of energy bending helps to really stem all of this together. And again, energy bending was introduced in Avatar, Lion Turtle was introduced in Avatar, and even Avatar by the end of it clarifies itself a little bit more with the Toph backstory, with the interaction with the dragons and so on. Even the line that like Aang says about Appa of like, oh, maybe you can teach me some airbending, buddy, as if like you can teach me a move, not the raw ability. That's the distinction. And it still amazes me to this day how people don't get that, can't fully bring that together. But yes, very, very enjoyable episode, absolutely. But yeah, in the comments, let me know what episode of Avatar or Korra you want to see me do next. I will be keeping in mind what you guys posted on the first video, the Great Divide video yesterday, but definitely keep the suggestions coming so I know which ones you want done. But yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.